Good day. I am Scott Milne, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. Well, I think what the governor and listening to experts and following the data is what we should be doing. It seems to me that we've got one of the most successful COVID response, protect our population efforts going in the country, and we should keep doing what we're doing. I'm actually drawn into this race to a great extent because I've got a business that's on the front lines of just seeing how devastating, not only the health part of this obviously is something that we got to focus on first, but I think now we realize we're in the middle of, and it's going to last long beyond the health crisis, the economic crisis that we're in. I've been living and working in small business for the last 3 decades. I think I bring to the Lieutenant Governor's office that nobody on the Democrat progressive side brings, which is experience in private sector and in small business, creating jobs and building a business. As we come out of the health crisis part of this, I'll be totally focused on working as a partner, I believe with Governor Scott, to help our economy get back on track and help our people and our small businesses be optimistic about a bright future. And it's going to take a lot of work to get there. I know the federal SNAP program is influential with the state. I would encourage the federal government, particularly during this pandemic, to ease regulations and expand benefits for SNAP, benefits. I also think, it's tied to safely reopening our schools. A lot of families are dependent upon schools for nutrition for their children, and it's something that I think is an important ingredient in safely reopening our schools. Climate change is a real concern for everybody. And I think often people ask, are we doing enough in Vermont to address climate change? And it's really not a question of, are we doing enough? It's a question of, are we doing the right things? Climate change is a global problem. I believe we need a national solution. I don't believe that putting Vermonters at a disadvantage relative to people that are living in neighbor states or other states economically with state actions is smart. I don't believe that opening Vermont to a flood of lawsuits is smart. I think we need at least a national program to fight this, if not a global program. But what Vermont can do, and what I'll be totally focused on doing as Lieutenant Governor, is leveraging Vermont's brand and Vermont's reputation to attract businesses that can actually develop new technologies to come up with new ways of combating climate change. I think Vermont's a perfect place for businesses like that to relocate. We've got a lot of work and a lot of the, I would say a lot of the foundation of some of the things that we're doing that I don't think are really going to be that effective in fighting climate change can be very effective in building a foundation for that brand, which as Lieutenant Governor, I'll be focused on bringing those jobs and those companies to Vermont. Clearly, as a white male, I've learned a lot and I've listened a lot. Interestingly, just in the last, what's it been, since I think May 25th when George Floyd was killed. I think, as a people, we need to have a conversation. It's important to be listening, particularly for people like me, and learning. I've listened a lot. I've learned a lot. I think we need to stamp out racism wherever it exists. I believe there's probably times where it's appropriate for the Vermont legislature to get involved in that. And it's something as Lieutenant Governor, I'll be actively working towards deepening my understanding of and being a ally for communities that have been disadvantaged and have been victimized by racism for centuries. Well, it's a great question. I think nationally, when we look back on the Clinton era national reform, laws, they were not well thought out and ended up having a lot of unintended consequences. The early Trump administration sort of changes in the criminal justice system are things that I support. I support changes in Vermont under Governor Scott that seem to be moving in the right direction. I think, a criminal justice system, particularly for minor crimes, that is focused on rehabilitation over retribution or punishment is a direction that we're moving in and a direction that I support. Obviously, I think we learned from past mistakes that having politically connected entities get huge contracts that aren't well vetted hasn't worked. I think these communication union districts that are cropping up where it's locally controlled, whether it's EC Fiber. I happen to grow up on a dirt road in a rural part of Orange County, one of the poorer parts of the state that's had fiber optic connections for over 20 years because of a well-run local telephone company, Thompson Telephone Company, in the Solomon family. So I think we need to leverage federal money. We need to get it in the hands of smart local people. Clearly, I believe we're on our way to having this solved in the next few years. Something as Lieutenant Governor, I'll look forward to probably not being too responsible for it happening. I don't think that's a Lieutenant Governor role, but I will celebrate it and I will do everything I can to promote it. Coming from a small business background, I understand, not only, the problems that are wrought on Vermont businesses and Vermont families by coronavirus. I see that every day in my business. I'm talking to you from a office that's been open every business day for over 40 years, save since the middle of March when we've been closed. That's happening all over Vermont and all over America right now. So that's an immediate problem we're going to have to deal with. But what we can't forget is that problem is laid over big foundational problems that have been brewing in Vermont over the last couple generations. We had a pension fund crisis that people aren't talking about. We're going to leave our grandchildren with a big problem there. We've got, balanced budget problems. Where I come at this from is we've got smart people, great educated workforce. We need to fix some of these structural problems. I believe my small role in this being solved, Mike, will be as Lieutenant Governor. I view it as some version of a chief brand officer for Vermont, chief marketing officer. I'll be working with every Vermont business in the hospitality, the restaurant industry, manufacturing. If you're a troubled Vermont business, I'd like to be a part of helping you figure out how to get your business back on solid footing. If you're a growing business, I'd like to help you figure out why and how to put those jobs in Vermont. And as we talked about before, if you're a young entrepreneur or a young business startup, I think we want to make Vermont a place that it's smart to put your people, and it's smart to grow a business. And for too long, we've relied on people putting people here because they like the state or thinking with their heart. We got to make it a state where smart business people that are thinking with their brain realize Vermont's a smart place to be doing business. As Lieutenant Governor, I think I can be a very credible voice for Vermonters in Vermont in taking that message to boardrooms and decision makers, most of whom are outside Vermont these days, which is one of the reasons why we have a demographic crisis and a job crisis and all these other issues that we need to deal with.